put up 4 security devices around my house after my truck was broken into again for the second time. I think I caught him this morning. I'm about 99% certain I did. It occurred at, I think, 8:24 in the morning, and it was recorded to the security camera over here. I couldn't see his face. He had on a hoodie and even had his hands in his pockets and the hood over his head, and he crept up. He kind of looked out of the corner of his eye at the security camera, and he immediately turned around again and walked down the street this way. There's another alarm in the vehicle that would have set off an alarm here in my house. I think I've nixed that. Nothing is foolproof. I know somebody wants in, unless you've got extremely serious barriers, they're going to get it in. Canada named, I know the device they're using, there's a few different variants of it, I'm not going to name it. Canada named it enemy number 1. It's an electronic hacking device, and basically all modern cars can't be locked. It's just, there should be a switch or something inside of a vehicle that you could hit that means you can only get into the vehicle if you actually physically insert the key and turn it, and all of that's essentially gone away, extremely unfortunately. But I deterred him. I know that was the guy. He looks like he's in his between 30 and 40 years old. Not that I could tell, just by the way he walks, and he had on shorts. Let me get into what's happening here, but I'll point out something. I met with him yesterday. Right now my friend's showing him around Berea, Kentucky. There's a guy, of course, during the past few years when things got bad, they got really bad, meaning oppression and tyranny is what I'm referring to, of course. Up in Brooklyn, this guy flew down from Brooklyn. He's here, and I'm gonna get up early and go down and show him a cabin on a farm. It's not my land. It belongs to somebody else, and I'm very familiar with it since I live not too far from it, my cabin anyway. And he can't take the tyranny anymore. He's buying it as an investment and a place to retreat from all the insanity up there. The people up in that area, you can't typify everybody, but they're extremely hypocritical. They talk about, diversity this and that all the time, but they themselves, are one-track mind. They're unable to listen to anything that's outside the bubble of basically everybody up there is living in a nutshell and sniffing their own flatulence, and they're extremely myopic, and they're easily some of the least intelligent, hypocritical people that you'd ever run across. It's just horrifically so, and he sees it for what it is, and that's why he's down here. He loves it and the freedoms down here in Kentucky. And I'm not trying to get anybody to move to Kentucky, What do I get out of that? I want people to be happy, obviously, but there's an absolute lot going on. I don't know if you caught this. No one's talking about it, but it's called the Wabash Valley Produce Facility in Farina, Illinois. It's the largest free-range egg facility in the United States. Millions of chickens met their demise. Just a super, super colossal fire. I mean, the facility is absolutely ginormous. I'm not going to say what the cause of that is. Even the fire marshal doesn't know, but there's been an awful lot of that happening in the past few years, and it's just far outside the spectrum of probability. But I mean, we could debate that one way or the other. I don't know. I don't pretend to know the answer to that. It's been astronomically unbelievable odds on these types of facilities the past few years. People, by the way, as a side note, before getting into the serious stuff, are stealing fire hydrants in California. They're for scrap content. This is the reason why, too. I forget which town in California they removed the stoplights, and they replaced them with stop signs because the homeless folks were stealing it because the copper content was extremely high, the wiring and the actual. Do you know how much you get for scrap copper? The amount of effort it takes to pilfer scrap copper, it's just a lot of backbreaking labor, and you talk about a lot of desperation there. I went to a grocery store. I have to admit, it was kind of like a fancy grocery store, which I would never shop at because I have far less money than I've ever had in my life, even though I'm working harder. And I keep getting made fun of. I was like, why aren't you down at your cabin? It's like, because I can't afford to go there. I got 4 items. You know, 2 of it were fancy jars of spaghetti sauce that I hadn't seen in many, many, many years. It's really, really tasty stuff. But I mean, the 4 items, 5 technically, the one of a little thing of coffee doesn't really count. So, okay, technically 5. That was $33. Even a regular grocery store, things just keep getting worse and worse. Russia, by the way, used to be a Russian English translator, русско-английский переводчик. Lived in Russia, lived in St. Petersburg. Of course, then it was Leningrad, Moskva, Moskве, Leningrade. Во Владимире. Vladimir is a tiny little city, 130 kilometers на север с Москвы. Russia's deployed 11 plus of its top-notch nuke-powered and nuke-armed submarines to the Atlantic Ocean around the United States and possibly also to Europe, but I'm thinking probably mostly to the United States. This is meant to be a warning to NATO. I don't know if you've seen the Gen 2 Tesla bot. They're trying to replace, they're not going to replace plumbers and carpenters really, but you know, the repetitive motion manual labor. I mean, for a short period of time I worked at a Toyota factory, which is not far from here, where they make the Camry, and I forget what other vehicle at the time. It was a long time ago. I mean, they got endless millions of dollars of robots, and of course they've been there now for decades. The robots for making cars, but all the other things that were done at hand level are going to be replaced. I mean, they had one tier of robots, you know, for the heavy-duty spot welding, where you had to be up in high areas and whatnot, perfectly suited for these super expensive robots. But all the things that, you know, people like me and the other people at these facilities for making things are going to be replaced by these AI. I don't know if it's going to be the Tesla bot, because currently they're on Generation 2, but all of that is coming. You need to make yourself indispensable in this job market. I don't know if you can call it a job market. Everything is literally about to collapse. Yeah, millions of chickens in that Wabash facility up in southern Illinois. But this is absolutely terrible. This is going to destroy everything. Not only can nobody afford to buy any real estate or a starter home or anything like that, people are still living with their parents at the age of 30 and even 40 years old because you can't afford any place. The current mental midgets over in D.C. are proposing a capital gains tax rate of 44.6%. Let's just call it 45%. You know how astronomically insane that is? You know how that's going to, and I know you're going to say that's the whole point. It's going to wreck businesses, it's going to wreck home sales, it's going to completely wreck the business and real estate, both commercial and residential market. 45, all home flippers are, I mean, would you think about buying a beat up home and renovating it and flipping it if the capital gains taxes are going up to 45%? I mean, why? Why bother? You know how absolutely crazy that is? I mean, it's off the hook, bat poop crazy. This is supposed to kick in 2025. I mean, this is all part of the collapse. And it's called Agenda 2030 for a reason, but this is all coming. 45% capital gains tax? All the real estate that I bought is worth a lot more than I paid for it, the raw land that being. But I mean, why would I ever? The only reason you would buy it now is if you were going to make passive income off of it and rent it out. That kind of capital gains tax is absolutely crazy. By the way, her name is Marie Agnes Strack from Deutschland. This head honcho in Germany and others are urging the military to activate 900,000 German reservists over Russian belligerence. June 6th supposed to be a landmark day. France President, excuse me, Macron is to announce that Europe is at conflict with Russia. Officially make the first announcement sending military personnel to European. I've seen actual French soldiers that were actually seized by Russian forces over in the UK. I'm going to use the word Ukraine. It's like the buzzword that the algorithm is going to listen to when I actually say that. But by the way, United States heavy kinetic military equipment have been landing in targets in Russia, in Tatarstan, which is 1,200 kilometers to the northeast of Ukraine. I'm going to say it in Russian. Ukraine. The strikes have hit the area of Krasnogorsk. Air raid sirens sounded there. Anyway, all this advanced European and American military hardware has been landing in Russia. Moscow has warned the United States against miscalculations that have fatal consequences. Their words, not mine. Not being ambiguous, there's no room for misinterpretation. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Ryabkov commented in Kiev, getting permission to carry out kinetic strikes using hardcore military hardware deep into Russian territory, claiming the Russian Federation calls the United States to take Russia's warnings with the utmost seriousness. The EU, the United States, I told you this for years now. There's only two ways to get out of the financial crisis, and there currently is a huge financial crisis, not only the banking system, but also, too, of debt, and on, is central bank digital currency, which they've been working hard at, and the other one is full-out kinetic conflict. That's the only way you're able to reset things. Like, this is really, really dire. There's a movie where a kid is afraid of his mother finding out he broke something, so he broke something less important over here so he could reset the issue that he caused over there. It's not a great analogy, but I mean, this is what the United States and Europe are trying to do. The FDIC, by the way, has warned that 63 banks now are vulnerable to failure due to $517 billion in unrealized losses, marking a concerning uptick in the financial sector's instability. Despite the claims of the resilience of the banking system sector, which of course is complete and total nonsense, the U.S. Federal Reserve and the administration in D.C. Say the specter of significant financial strain looms large, yada yada. Anybody with 4 brain cells and 2 eyes can see what's actually happening out there, and it's not good. Latest FDIC reports highlights this mark of the 9th consecutive quarter of substantial unrealized losses. I know a couple of people that are in the banking sector, and they say it's actually bad and scary out there. I mean, I believe them. I mean, do they have their eyes on the huge pizza pie of what's happening in the banking system in the United States? I mean, no, but they hear from people that are higher up, and every indication says that this is all coming to a collapse. By the way, NATO has now said that a cyber attack would be grounds for Article 5 collective self-defense. So this means that they could create a false flag on their own countries and then blame it on Russia. And this would allow NATO and the United States to join forces with Ukraine against that of Russia. By the way, Scott Ritter, who I'm not a fan of, but his passport was seized at the airport. He's a former U.S. Marine and United Nations inspector. He was physically stopped from visiting Russia today by the U.S. government. State Department seized his passport right on the spot as he's about to board the plane. He was on his way to St. Petersburg for the International Economic Forum, SPIEF. And he was literally pulled off the plane and his passport confiscated. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? It's absolutely mind-blowing what's going on, and nobody's talking about it. I think everybody's just kind of numb. It's like Germany's calling for 900,000 reservists. Hardcore United States military technology is falling on the heads well within the borders of Russia, having been launched from Ukraine. I mean, what would we think about France if all of a sudden Mexico started launching advanced French military technology within the borders of the United States? What would we think about that? I'm so glad I caught my car thief out there, and I've dissuaded him from all the security. I mean, if I know he was out there, I said it happened just before 8:30 this morning. I've saved the video. I'll show it on live stream if you want to see it. The guy's got a hoodie. Basically can't see anything of him, but that's the guy. So they deployed 11 nuclear plus over 11 large nuclear subs. Not nuclear powered only, but nuclear, nuclear enabled. With re-entry vehicles, of course, we're talking about. Nobody wants to work anymore. It's like, why do it? Because you can't make ends meet. I'm not 30 or 20 years old anymore, but, I sometimes have those thoughts because I'm just struggling to make ends meet. And, starting next year, they're going to pass a 45% capital gains tax. That means if things become so dire for me, that I feel like selling off some of my raw land, it's like, why would I do it? 45% capital gains tax? I mean, are you nuts? This means you could... Well, how are you going to pass? Of course, I've got nobody to pass it to after I pass on, but I mean, they have a tax on that already. What are they going to do? Raise that, the death tax to 60% or something? It's like, well, you own it, but now you're not really going to own it because you can't sell it because no one with 5 brain cells is going to want to sell anything because capital gains taxes are so high. It's just ridiculous. Why would I do that? So the only way that you could use it while you're still alive and make money off of it is to start renting it out. I mean, they want to turn everybody into a renter. Gee, where does that sound familiar? If you have all this property, and it's like, well, it's worth a lot more than I paid for it, but I can't sell it now because capital gains taxes are so high. I know what I'll do. I'll rent it. I'll become a miniature robber baron, which is, if it keeps you afloat financially, I get that. It's like, well, I can't sell it. I really, really wanted to sell it. Now I'm just going to have to rent it out. Make some passive income off the property. Which there's nothing wrong with passive income. I've been trying to establish passive income now for quite some time. Heck, I've got a farm that I've been advertising to rent out for, $300 a month. It's a 10-acre farm with a barn and pond on it for $300. I mean, that's pretty cheap. $300 a month for a 10-acre farm with a fence around it. All you'd have to do is, plop a trailer on it or something, but everybody out there is so broke that it's like, man, that really is a steal, Ken. A 10-acre farm for three Benjis a month? Yeah, and I still can't afford it. We are about 1 thin cracker and 2 seconds or half a heartbeat away from... It's only going to take one straw to break camel's back. I'm under strain of grocery bills and regular bills. Everybody else is too. I feel like I'm faring better because I work 7 days a week and I don't have a house payment or a car payment. But just normal folks out there, I mean, man, it's getting so bad that there is just no chance on this earth that it could last much longer. It's just not. It can't happen. We're talking about replacement theory, and every American knows what's going on in the United States as far as a replacement. But that's already in full swing in France, Germany, the Netherlands, Ireland, UK. Full on swing. Up until about 4 years ago, and I've seen this coming now for quite some time, everybody was crunching numbers on their screen. It's about the numbers they had in their crypto wallet or the numbers they had on their bank account. And it's not going to cut it. I keep saying this, but you really need to listen. If you think I'm right about anything, you better believe I'm right about this. It won't be about numbers anymore. It won't be about logging into your online bank account, logging in to your crypto wallet to check what your balance is, you have any donations or anything. It's all numbers. It's going to be about nails. Whether they be slow moving and driven by a hammer or ultra fast moving and not made out of steel. It's going to be about nails. It won't be about numbers anymore. It'll be about nails. People will be counting the cash in their vault or the cash in their bank account. It won't be about cash anymore. It'll be about cucumbers and lettuce and seeds. It won't be about cash, it'll be about cucumbers. And it won't be about numbers anymore. It will be about nails. I could go down the list. My friend, those cute little ones, I don't have one here. They're little charge controllers for solar. She ordered a dozen redundancies of those, and it's a brilliant move. They're only 40 bucks a piece. I myself bought a couple of them. She bought a dozen. I need to wire them up for them. I've got all the wires over here to solder on. I got my little soldering iron right down here. You can't see it. And my little solar panel connectors I need to solder onto the charge controllers, the spare ones here. Strip the wires here. I'm really good at soldering, by the way. I grew up at a young age, being taught, hey, where's my soldering iron? Here it is. I need to get some more flux. There we go. I was soldering last night, sitting here in my sitting here in the undies, listening to some classical music, soldering things up. I don't care if you think I'm some sort of prepper, and I don't believe in the whole, you see these prepper people, and it's good to be prepared, but I just know what's coming. You don't have to call it any names. Like, I can see what's coming. I can see it at the horizon. It is coming. I was right. All that land I've invested in, I'm as proud now, way more proud now than even when I bought it, but, to have that as a nest egg to fall back on, if and when things get dire, that's what land is for. It's like, I'm sure many of you are in the same situation. What are you going to do when capital gains hit 45%? Well, it's worth 3 times as much as I paid. Remember when people used to say about land or property? Well, it's 3 times more than I paid for it back in the year 20 whatever. Now the answer is going to be, who cares? What are you going to do? Sell it? Ha ha! Let me do my Pee Wee Herman laugh. Ha! I can't do it. Let me try that again. I'll edit that out. Ha! It's going to be a Pee Wee Herman laugh at the end of it. Yeah, your house is worth, or your raw land's worth 4 times as much, but what are you going to do? Ha! Sell it? 45% capital gains tax? No, you're not going to do that. No. You're not that stupid. All of this stuff is being done on purpose. I always laugh and roll my eyes when I see other people that can't see it. They're like, I don't know why this is going on. This doesn't make any sense. If you can see the big picture, it makes perfect sense. If you know what they're planning, you haven't had your head in a really dark place, dark and smelly place, you would know what's going on, and it all makes perfect sense. You have to look at it from the perspective of evil, what they want, you'll own nothing and be happy, yada, yada, yada. You either prepare or don't, You think it's not going on, I feel for you. I feel very sorry for you if you think it's not going on, because it is going on. We are right to, I would never say this lightly, we're right on the edge of WW3. Whether that be limited or full scale, I will not prognosticate, but we're right on the edge of it. And that's just not up for debate. People used to think we were back in the 1980s, and they had the DEFCON clock and the how many minutes to midnight stuff, and oh my god, we're on the edge. Turns out we weren't. I think that's why nobody is afraid these days. It's not about being afraid, it's about being aware. But this time it's for real, but no one's paying attention. Very few people are paying attention. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely week. I'm going to go down early tomorrow with that gentleman that flew down from Brooklyn and have him look at his land and cabin. He hasn't bought it yet, but when he was down here to look at it, I'm pretty sure he's going to get it. I don't make any money one way or the other, whether he does or doesn't get it. Just here to show it to him and whatnot. So, very nice guy. He's so sick of the tyranny and the evil that was going on up there these past few years. He's made a 180-degree turnaround. Good for him. Thanks so much for watching.